While putting together my recent video about my ride over the Bialach na Ba on Moose, my 790 Duke, and then reading the comments that it was good to see him out on the road again, I thought that he was long overdue an owner's update. A lot has happened in the more than 7 years that I've owned my 790 Duke. We've had multiple channel intros, my hair's turned grey, the hipster movement has come and gone, we've had 5 different MotoGP champions, COVID has had us all in lockdown, the UK has officially left the European Union, I've changed jobs, and my 2 best mates have departed. Raking through my old emails, I can see that I first inquired about a test ride way back in April of 2018, and I ordered the new bike along with a long list of official power parts on the 12th of May 2018. Those accessories were a seat cowl, the ergo seat, decal kit, bar end mirrors, USB, heated grips, belly pan, a Krapovic exhaust, and of course the full tech pack was included as standard back then. Although these parts are all listed in the catalogue, many were not in the dealerships yet, and so there was a little wait as they slowly filtered through. I noticed on my invoice that the dealership was good enough to include free fitting of all said parts, but due to the nature of how they trickled in from KTM and where I live, I ended up doing most of it myself. Totally by accident, Moose kind of kick-started this channel. Up until this point, YouTube was just somewhere that I stored my holiday videos and the occasional bike run with my mates. When Moose arrived, I ran him in over a week to meet a pre-booked service appointment, and to do that I took a blast over to the Kyle of Localsh with friends and recorded the trip before posting it on YouTube. Now, because the 790 Duke had only just launched and people were looking for more info and videos about it, it quickly hit around 2,000 views in just a few days, which is still quite a lot for me. Not long after that, I sent Moose and myself on a challenge and decided to try and complete the NC 500 in one day. You can see just how early into the ownership that was, because he still had the ugly standard mirrors and the exhaust fitted. And I think he still had a pillion seat too. As a bike to cover the NC 500 on, I'd give him a good 8 out of 10. In this case, the only thing that let down the early 790s was the crappy throttle response. Oh yeah, that and the maxi tyres, which offered very little feedback. Other than that, these bikes are light and nimble, and considering that on the early models the suspension was non-adjustable at the front, it's set up well for most road surfaces and road types. Ergonomically, I think KTM did a spot-on job with the 790. It's more than sporty enough for a scratch or comfortable enough for a full day in the saddle. It was certainly good enough to allow me to go on a post-COVID camping trip to the Isle of Skye. Talking about comfort, if you remember, later on I did swap out the bars for those from the 890R just to get a little more weight over the front end. Not at all a necessity, I just preferred that position and the feedback that it gave me. For track days, the pegs are maybe a little too relaxed in their positioning, but I'm guessing that's why they brought out an R. Nobody can ever say that the 790 is a good looking bike. Thankfully, I was won over on my test ride by the handling and the punchy parallel twin motor. The standard exhaust, it's also pretty ugly, which is a shame because as a factory fit it actually sounds really good and it pops and bangs and rumbles on a closed throttle. Some people painted or powder coated them black, which helped a little, but I just couldn't live with the motocross look of it and quickly fitted the official Krapovic slip-on instead. The Krapovic, although it looks better, wasn't really a big audible difference between the two, maybe just a little bit more bass, and that's why I decided to risk removing the decibel killer. Today's the day, so if I look nervous you know why. I'm just about to drill into a £700 Acapulco exhaust. I've never been so petrified in my life, but it turned out okay in the end and it was worthwhile. The Krapovich now sounds great and I'm still happy with it to this day. Talking about mods, I did a few of those. We did the Evotech tail tidy, Raximo levers, which after a few years are starting to fade, a K&N filter, the booster plug, another belly pan, sprockets, a chain, discs and pads, fly screen, Dab Rabbit decals, plus a one-off 3D printed reflector from Lowmate. Where are you, Lowmate? I hope you're well, pal. Out of all of the listed mods and accessories, which would I do again? Probably the seat cowl and the mirrors and the exhaust for looks and for practicality, and where I ride I would go with heated grips and the sprockets. The continuous booster plug, well, that made a very slight difference to my bike, but these days I think that a Rapid Bike Easy would be a better option, especially for the money. And if you're trying to improve the throttle response, you will never beat a tuner. Moose has been a fantastic bike to own for 95% of the time. A top-notch all-rounder with just the right amount of power for the road. He's been great for back road scratches, days out, nights away. A real pleasure to ride. And I'm only ever reminded positively of that after getting back onto him if I've been riding any of my other bikes. Servicing isn't too bad, especially compared with my Ducatis, whose servicing costs definitely make me wince. Only the unexpected hidden costs have blunted my enthusiasm for ownership. Those being costs which I don't believe that I should have incurred. Touch wood, I've had no camshaft or water pump issues, but I did have a problem with my discs warping at around 6,000 miles, which I thought would be covered under warranty. Randomly, KTM pointed the finger at user error, which I find quite infuriating as KTM basically encourage you to ride like a hoon in all of their advertising. Ready to race is plastered over everything. I've never experienced this issue with any of my bikes before, used or new. In the end, both KTM and COVID lockdowns conspired against me, and I had to suck up the costs myself, which was KTM's loss really, as I was seriously looking to swap an 890R. Unlike their brakes though, their lack of customer service put a rapid halt to that idea. As it was, my only option was to upgrade to wavy discs and a power parts chain, so they made some money off me. There was no point in staying stock and potentially running into the same issue again with the Galfer discs. The aforementioned sprockets have given Moose a bit of extra shove out of the corners, but blunted his ultimate top speed. Not something that I need to worry about, as I only ever ride him on the road, but if my track day at Portimao hadn't fallen through, I think I'd have been hitting the limiter on the straight. Other than the discs, I've had some flaky paint to deal with. I'm not concerned about the water pump. It's in an exposed area, so it's going to be susceptible to being shot blasted by debris. But paint peeling from the frame did surprise me. That came about when I sellotaped a microphone wire to it, and the paint came away when I removed the sellotape. The professional repair cost me a good couple of £100, and the paint sprayer said that it looked to him as if there was no primer beneath the paint. I also had a sweaty oil leak, which turned out to be a simple gasket replacement, which I did myself. One last thing that has blunted the joy of ownership for me is the residuals. I did mention this in my questionnaire from KTM. It seemed that no sooner had I bought my bike than they discontinued it, and then there was a new 890 version on the way, and then soon after that the 890R. Then they started making a newer and cheaper 790 Duke again, and of course all of this slams your residuals. Not something to worry about if you're on a PCP, but if like me you are buying your bike, you're only losing money. And within 3 years KTM had replaced my bike twice over. It would seem that time is a healer, as once again I am at least considering a KTM or a Husqvarna as a future purchase. Maybe it's also a little pity for them after the recent troubles. As much as they tick me off, I really don't want to see them fail and have one less manufacturer to choose from. And more importantly, I don't want anyone losing their jobs. What's next for Moose then? I'm not 100% sure yet, but there's a good chance that he'll be getting traded in at some point in the future. In preparation, I'm going to be removing the Dab Rabbit decals. Yeah, after all that time and effort, I'm going to be taking them off. I don't want anyone thinking that there's anything scary lurking below the flashy graphics, so I'm going to put it back to stock. Then Moose will get serviced and we'll see what happens between EICMA and the spring. It may sound like I'm being a bit down on old Moose, but I'm not really. As bikes go, he's been right up there as one of the best that I've ever owned. Would I recommend a 790 as a used bike? Yeah, I probably would. You'll get one cheap enough now with the residuals. It would definitely be worth taking a punt on one. Just hold a bit of money back for discs unless it comes with the already upgraded wavies. If you want to know a little more about Moose, if there are any of the accessories that have caught your eye, then just go to Moose the 790 Duke on my playlist. Everything's in there.